Today's episode is sponsored by Pacific Sensi. Hey everybody, you may not know this about me, but I suffer from PTSD. And because of that, I need help. Pacific Sensi is a boutique farm in Oregon that grows top shelf quality hemp flower. Hemp flower looks, smells, and smokes like weed, except it's low in THC, so it doesn't get you high. Pacific Sensi flower is loaded with CBD so you can enjoy the benefits of cannabis without feeling burned out, paranoid, or anxious. And let me tell you, this stuff is incredible in helping me with my PTSD symptoms. It's good for relaxing after work or even at work. Great for a day at the beach or on the go. Pacific Sensi flower is non-intoxicating, so it's perfect anytime, really. It's lab-tested, federally legal, and discreet shipping comes right to your front door. Pacific Sensi flower is greenhouse-grown, seedless, and always fresh. Go to www.pacificsensi.com. That's www.pacificsensi.com to order now. Use promo code TRUE for 10% off. I want to take a moment and thank my newest patron subscribers. Thank you so much, Lisa, Jennifer, Lisa again, Sabrina, Wendy, Christine, Connie, Aaron, Chelsea, Brandy. Thank you all so much for your patronage. I'd also like to thank my Apple subscribers and coffee supporters. Finally, I want to thank Lily's mom, Veronica, for sitting down with me to discuss Lily's story. Today's case is a difficult one as it deals with the senseless killing of Iliana Lily Rose Garcia. In October 2015, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, two drivers on Interstate 40 were involved in a road rage incident. The two vehicles were said to have cut each other off. When one driver pulls alongside a truck driven by Alan Garcia, that's when the driver opened fire into the truck. The worst possible scenario happened. A bullet struck young Lily Garcia in the head. The driver sped away and numerous people immediately called 911, including Lily's dad, Alan. Lily's mother, Veronica, contacted me and asked for an interview. She wanted to make you all aware of the crime that took her beautiful little girl's life and the man who did it. This is the story of Iliana Rose Garcia. I am Eric Carter-Landin, and this is True Consequences. As is usual for this show, we're going to learn a little bit about the sweet angel Lily. Lily's mom, Veronica, joined me in the studio to tell me all about her sweet baby girl.
So Lily is my 4-year-old daughter. Her name was Iliana Rose Garcia. Her brother couldn't pronounce Iliana, so he would call her Lily Nana, so Lily stuck. I had her, she was born in September 13th of 2011. And she was the light of my life. She was just so, she was just so spunky. She loved her big brother. She wanted to be a big kid just like him, which they were only about 3 years apart, almost to the day, exactly 3 years apart. She loved to dance, she loved to sing. She was, of course, into Frozen at that time, Minnie Mouse, the Pink Power Ranger. I mean, she was kind of a girly girl, but then she would be, wanting to fight and be the Power Ranger. So it was kind of half and half. One of the things that I always tried to do with both my children is, music and dancing. And that was always a big part of my life. So I wanted to do that with them. And so any type of music, we would jam out to, even going to taking them to daycare. It was our morning routine to jam out in the car, and that song from Happy from Pharrell Williams. So during that time, that came out. Yeah. So that was one of her jams, and she would have been amazing. She really would. I mean, I'm sure every parent says that about their child, but I feel just deep in my heart that she would have been a star. She would have been something. We were a very close knit family. I had my boy and I had my girl and, decided, okay, I'm good. This is my family. This is, what my life is going to be. I'm a mom and, things were great. We did our outings and our camping and, the balloon fiesta, and Halloween was our favorite holiday, dressing up. And yeah, she was just so bright and beautiful and had beautiful, beautiful big brown eyes and just real fair skin. And she was amazing.
I keep thinking I've seen a picture of her dressed like a princess, like in pink. Am I imagining that?
So one of the main pictures that there is she has a pink shirt on, and then she has pink shorts, and then she has her pink boots.
Okay.
And these pink boots, now that you say that, she would always wear them everywhere. She loved her pink boots. I think my mom may have got them for her. I can't remember right now, but yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. I remember all the pink, but for some reason when I would glance at it, I kind of saw her as like a little princess. And maybe that's just like the vibe I got from her. But I thought that was a really beautiful picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, she loved to take pictures. She was, now with the whole selfies and all of that, she would go and take all the pictures that she could. So all the silly ones too. So we definitely have a lot of pictures that she took of herself.
That's such a gift that you have all of those pictures now. I mean, I'm sure it's painful to look at them, but it's still really beautiful that you have those memories.
Yeah, for a long time, it was hard to look at her pictures because it just hurt so much.
Yeah.
Like I said, she was my world. That was going to be my best friend. My best friend for life. My mother and I are very close. We've always been very close. And so now it's my turn with my daughter. And unfortunately, that was taken. That was ripped away.
As I mentioned in the beginning, this was a road rage incident that escalated to the nth degree and ended in tragedy. Veronica told me all about this awful day.
So it was just a regular day. Iliana had started pre-K at Joannes Elementary. It was her second day, so we were getting ready. I went to work, and my Isaac was going to another school right around the corner. My husband Alan went to go pick them up. Picked up Isaac and then picked up Iliana. They drove around a little while. It was raining that day, so I know that they were playing in the puddles and stuff with the truck. And they started to head westbound on I-40. And there was a verbal altercation, I believe, with Tony Torres. And it came out to be a road rage incident. And Iliana and Isaac were sitting in the back seat. Iliana was directly behind my husband while he was driving. And Tony Torres shot 3 times from behind. And one of the bullets struck Lily in the head. I was at work. I believe it started right on Coors and I-40. They landed up stopping between Unser and 98th, where they pulled over. I know that Isaac had told Alan, she's bleeding. Pulled over. He tried to help. At that time, she was still breathing. I know there was a nurse that was traveling, moving to Arizona, saw what was going on and pulled over. From speaking with that nurse, who I, thank God that she was there at that time, she just told me that she held my Lily and rubbed her head. And so I think she passed then. I'm not too sure. I was at work and I got a phone call. I kept texting Alan, and he wasn't texting me back, so it just kind of gave me a weird vibe. Finally, he called to my work directly. I answered the phone, and he said, put Brenda, who was my coworker, put her on the phone. And so Brenda got on the phone, and all I heard was, "Oh my God, is she okay?" And she hung up the phone and said, "We got to go to the hospital. Lily was shot." I don't remember much. I remember my boss didn't let me drive. Brenda took me to the UNM, and I just prayed the whole time. God, don't take my Lily. Don't take my Lily. I don't even think Brenda pulled up all the way and into the hospital, and I jumped out of the car, and I was trying to go through the double doors. And these paramedics had said, you can't go, ma'am. You can't go through there, ma'am. You need to go through the other side. And I just kept screaming, "My daughter was shot. My daughter was shot." So I ran to the front and was yelling at the receptionist, "My daughter was shot. Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter?" Security came and brought me into a little white room. And that's when I knew. I mean, I've always watched crime shows, and I knew. And so after that, I know more people started coming in, and then the surgeon came in. And she sat down and she said, Miss Rael, I'm sorry. We did everything that we could, but Lily's no longer here. And I just was angry. I was screaming. And then I was asking, well, where's my son? Where's my husband? It seemed like it took forever. Then told me that they have to take her to OMI. And so I said, well, I need to see her. Can I see her? So they took me into the emergency room, into this room, and they had her. They had her covered up to her neck in the blanket. And they said, ma'am, you can't touch her. You can't pick her up. And they had a big bandage around her head. And there was blood coming from her nose and her mouth. And her mouth was still kind of like open. And I had just asked for a warm washcloth so I could clean her face. So I was just wiping her face, and I was just singing, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. And that day it was raining and stuff, and they're like, ma'am, we gotta take her. And as a mom, I'm like, please keep her warm. Please make sure she's not cold. So I went back and was still waiting for Helen and Isaac. Again, it just seemed like forever. Luckily that day, there was a firefighter. He had kind of taken my Isaac during that time and took him to his truck, and he became a really good friend to my Isaac. Of course, Alan was questioned, for hours and hours, even the days following. I guess just trying to get the whole story. And, it was difficult. The community definitely rallied, for us, people around the state, people around the country, the world. I mean, I think her story reached, like Germany and Japan, and it's just unnecessary. Tony Torres, of course, didn't pull over. He took off. They caught him, I want to say 2 days later, which they caught him with like $64,000 in cash. They caught him with cocaine, marijuana. They caught him with, I want to say 5 automatic assault rifles and then like 300 ammunition. So it wasn't like he was going to APD to turn himself in. He was going to take off. Because of that, he does have federal charges on him. With the courts and everything, he was sentenced to second-degree murder, and 1 year for firearm enhancement, which is 16 years, and that's just for Lily's murder. And then he has federal charges for the guns and the drugs and the cash, which I think was like 7 years. So in total, he'll do less than 20 years. So I've done my research about him, and he had multiple charges before, dating back to 2004, I believe. Drug charges, domestic violence charges. I know he had pulled out a gun on other people, but he was only convicted of like a traffic ticket is the only thing that I found. And so he shouldn't have been out on the streets.
It's one of those things where when people watch or listen to true crime, they're like, oh, there were all of these signs. There were all of these signs that everybody ignored. Nobody paid attention to. Like, this is one of those examples of there was tons of signs that this person was escalating. Right. His behavior was getting more violent. Right. And yet he was still free to do what he did, which is just mind-boggling. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was a tough situation, I think, for everybody involved, because I don't think anybody really reported like road rage in any form, in any way. Right. It's people were always okay throwing up the hands or giving the finger or whatever, because you weren't worried about getting shot. Right. And then on the other hand, like you said, I mean, this guy had a record or, this habit of being violent and just never being held accountable for his actions. So it's kind of, to say the least, like a two-way thing where, you have somebody that because he was honked at or his hands were thrown up or whatever the case was that day. Even if he got flipped off.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Right. He was never held accountable for any of the stuff that he had done before. And that's what angers me so much. So much. Yeah. And it's mind-boggling. It really is, because 7 years later, look, I mean, there's more homicides than that same year. And that year was violent. 2015 was violent here.
Yeah. It was a record, I think. But every year's a record now.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And how sad is that? That next day, after Lily was killed, that's when Officer Webster was shot.
That's right.
The detectives that were on my case, they came and said, we found the killer. And so, of course, we have all this food and stuff. Please come and eat, want some coffee. And they're like, no, we got to go on another case. Yeah, Officer Webster was shot and died, 8 days later,
Right.
9 days later.
Right.
So
he went to trial, or did he get a plea deal?
No, he did a plea deal.
Okay.
And that was tough because they wanted to have my Isaac on the stand because my Isaac had seen him. So that was a big thing. They also, brought up even my husband's ex-wife who lives in a different state, trying to make my husband be the bad guy. And it was just a mess. It really was. They wouldn't allow me to be, if it went to trial, they wouldn't have allowed me to be in the courtroom. And so...
Why?
Because I'm Isaac's mom. And that's my husband. So if we were talking about the case or anything like that. So I don't know if it's a blessing that he took a plea deal. I don't know if it had been more traumatizing for my Isaac.
Right.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm. I just think that, 15 years and then again, only doing 85%. So that's 12 and a half years for killing somebody. And he
for killing a child.
Yeah. And he kept saying, well, I was scared. As a gun owner, you don't shoot from behind. If there's an immediate threat, you shoot like this, front to front. You don't shoot multiple times from behind. That's a coward.
Yeah.
That's a coward. That's a punk.
I want to discuss road rage with you and talk about its impact in our communities. Here's some statistics from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. 66% of traffic fatalities are caused by aggressive driving. 37% of aggressive driving incidents involve a firearm. Males under the age of 19 are the most likely to exhibit road rage. Half of the drivers who are on the receiving end of aggressive behavior, such as horn honking, a rude gesture, or tailgating, admit to responding with aggressive behavior themselves. Over a 7-year period, 218 murders and 12,610 injuries were attributed to road rage. 2% of drivers admit to trying to run an aggressor off the road. Road rage incidents were high the year Lily was killed, but things haven't improved much since 2015. According to Forbes.com, from a study on the most confrontational drivers, which I will read verbatim for you, New Mexico's score is 91.17 out of 100. New Mexico snags the 5th spot for the state with the most confrontational drivers. 15% of them report that another driver in their state followed them and then got out of their car to yell or fight with them. This is a problem still to this day. The incident with Lily happened in 2015. This survey from Forbes.com is from 2021. 7 years later, we are still seeing escalated numbers of road rage incidents here in Albuquerque and in New Mexico. I'm going to continue reading from this Forbes survey. Drivers from the land of enchantment were also most likely in the nation to say that another driver has exceeded the speed limit to block their car from changing lanes. Nearly 1 in 3 respondents from New Mexico said they know of someone in their state who has become injured to road rage. So what's it going to take for us to learn this lesson? Veronica has some thoughts on that she shared with me. So I know, like you said, before this happened, it didn't really seem like road rage was really part of the conversation. But how was that kind of being thrust into the national spotlight and the national conversation, like your family's trauma and your family's tragedy? What was that like for you? It
was kind of surreal. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's wanting to know, about us and about Lily. So, you never think of being in that situation. But I've had a lot of people reach out and say, because of this and because of, beautiful Lily, I'm, better behind the wheel. I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm not, throwing the finger to anybody, which is good. Mm-hmm. It is. It really is, because that means her death didn't go in vain, Yeah. No matter how I will have that pain, that hole in my heart for the rest of my life, at least it's been able to, change others. Yeah. In that form. But I also think that it brought out acknowledgement of the lax laws that we have, mm-hmm. the lack of accountability to be held, Yeah. So I think it just kind of thrust us into, the forefront. And it's been a journey, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, you don't even know the person. Yeah. I mean, somebody makes you that angry because they cut you off or because they threw their hands up or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's just, if you can't handle your emotions, then you don't need to be behind the wheel.
100%.
100%. And unfortunately, it seems like now road rage is being reported, and there's a lot of children that are dying. A lot of children that are dying because of that.
Yeah, it terrifies me every day with my son now that he's driving. He's very responsible. He's a good driver, but I know these people are here.
Person. Yeah.
So you talked about the lax laws. What are some things that you would like to see change in New Mexico?
Well, since she passed, we have been pushing to amend the current 3 strikes law here in New Mexico. Right now, as it sits, it's first-degree murder and second-degree murder. I've learned that trying to get a conviction for first-degree murder is super hard. I mean, there's so much stuff that has to be in play in order to get a first-degrry conviction.
You have to prove intent.
Yeah.
Which
premeditation, intent,
like
all of that.
How can you prove somebody intended to kill somebody?
I guess you need to have a plan, a map and all of that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The bar is too high.
Yeah. So it's gone to legislation a few times. It's died in the House of Representatives. We wanted to add, shooting at a motor vehicle, shooting at or from a dwelling, aggravated battery on a police officer, on a household member. There was a few others to add to it. My thing is there are 3, you get convicted 3 separate times, either by a plea deal or you're found guilty by, your peers. If you're getting convicted for second-degree murder 3 different times, bro.
Yeah.
You don't need to be out on the streets. So that's one thing that, we've tried to push. We're going to continue to try to push. And the other thing is raising the sentences. Again, 15 years, New Mexico, you don't have to do 85% of your time. Do the whole 15 years, or let's make it to 18 years, where you can do the full 15 years.
Right.
I don't get Lily back. I have to go and decorate a grave every holiday. I don't get to hear her voice, but, this guy gets to be out in less than 20 years to live his life. It's like, where's the fairness in that, And I mean, I know some people can, change, and that's another story, but as a victim, as a survivor of a homicide, it's just not fair. So New Mexico definitely needs some change.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've uncovered in my own experience, but also in talking to other family members in the state who have dealt with the justice system and the legal system here, is that there really is no support. They have a victim advocate, but if you're not calling them, they're not going to talk to you. Right. It's just, and then the defendants get so much support and so much help, and they get to go home and hang out with their family on an ankle monitor, and it's just it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think it's gotten worse, like you said, with the ankle monitor and all of that. I mean, we've already seen a few reoffended, even killed people, while they're on the ankle monitor. Victims, when we went through the judicial system, victims didn't have any rights, or they're very minimum, or we didn't know. The victim advocates, I mean, there is only so many with multiple cases trying to stay on top of it. And I think the federal system has a little bit better way, which I would hope soon, eventually, that New Mexico follows those. As far as with the district attorney at the time, it was Carrie Brandenburg. I remember walking into the office and there were stacks of banker boxes full of files. And these are people's cases. And it's just kind of like, what the hell's going on here? Is this what's going to happen to my daughter's case? I truly believe if it wasn't as public as it was, it may have never gotten somewhat of a justice. And I just say somewhat because there's not enough years. There's never enough.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the sentence is. What he did, he'll never be able to make up for, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the good news is he's not right now out there terrorizing people, but soon he probably will be.
Yeah, I mean, less than 20 years, yeah. What would it be, 18 years? And she just had her anniversary, so 7 years. So what, 11 more years?
11 more years.
And that's a scary thought.
It is.
It's a very scary thought.
Finally, I want you to listen to Veronica as she discusses what she hopes you will do after listening to this episode.
I just want people to remember her. I want people to change the way that they interact with others, especially on the road. And I just want people to really either, get involved in their communities or really research who's running for office and who's really going to be protecting you and your family. God forbid that you're in this situation, but the way that things have been going, you possibly will be or know somebody that's going through that.
100%.
And it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare that I still can't wrap my head around.
It's, for me, I don't know if you have the same experience, but Jacob died 35 years ago. Just saw today the sentencing for Fabian Gonzalez and what he did to Victoria. And every time I see a case come through like that, like Jeremiah Valencia, like Omari Varela, there's just so many kids. It's like part of my soul dies, It's hard for me to comprehend how we could be here 35 years later and we're still having the same conversation. And it's like nobody cares.
I feel the same way. Just because it hasn't been 35 years, but it's been 7 years and nothing has changed. No matter how much, screaming and crying and going to legislation and doing all of that. I saw something today about, Fabian, he should have gotten life in prison.
But that's 30 years here.
That's what I said. It's
so
30
he got
years,
more
so
than that.
He got more than life. So, if you want things to change, well, then, we got to do something, know? It's just, it's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. That is just, I can't imagine hurting a kid. What did that kid ever do to you? That's a child. That's a baby. It's just, if you're able to hurt a child and be involved in a child's killing, you shouldn't be out at all.
I mean, and the fact that he not only was released on his own recognizance pending trial, but also the fact that the requirement for him to stay away from children was taken away, and he was just allowed to be around kids after everything that he did.
With a new girlfriend.
With a new girlfriend, who then, her kids go missing because she abducts them?
It's true. I mean, it just shows, again, the lack of accountability. Nobody's worried about getting into trouble. Nobody's worried about anything like that because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's why they do what they do. And who's suffering? We're suffering. We're the ones with the life sentence. One day, I just hope that things change, whether it's, in Lily's name, Victoria's name, Amari's name. I don't care. It just needs to change. It really needs to change.
In all of their names. In all of their names. And it makes me mad that we have to have this conversation.
You got to go to Santa Fe one of these days and go to one of the committees and see what, God forbid something happens to them or their family.
Yeah. And then we see things change.
Thank you for doing this. I mean, I know that you've been able to help a lot of families, and I think it's super important that they have an outlet to keep their loved one's memory alive. That's super important because you don't want your loved one forgotten at all. And I just think I think what you're doing is great. And I'm sure Jacob's very, very proud of you.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Just thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
And I'm going to leave you with the following words from Lily's obituary. Iliana Lily Rose Garcia captured so many lives with her beautiful smile and captivating personality, singing peace and love, everybody peace and love, while jamming everyone's phones with hundreds of selfies. She always looked at people with her loving eyes and made sure to say hi and see you later. She rarely said goodbye. Lily was always ready to shop at Target, to count the green cars along the way, and to rest in the cafe with Grandma Rosa and her papu Jose Garcia. She looked forward to her small blue icy and made sure her yayak, Isaac, got his big icy. Her favorite downtime was to FaceTime with her grandma Nana Maria and Papa Larry Cruz from Hawthorne, Nevada, formerly of Las Vegas, New Mexico. She loved to share her books and have reading time with them. She enjoyed visiting with her grandparents Jerry and Sharon Geist. She even claimed a room as her own, saying, "Grandma, this is going to be my room." When she would visit, she played with trinkets that were placed around the house. From time to time, she decided to take them home with her and tell her dad she borrowed them because they could fit in her purse. Lily loved spending time at her special cousins Julie and Star Marchese's home. They loved pulling each other around in the wagon, riding bikes together, and playing with each other. They always made sure she had a good time when she was with them. Lily also had Roxanne and Charlie Brito at her beck and call. Whatever she wanted, they gave her. Lily will be greatly missed by her Prince Charming, Derek, son of Leo and Victoria Aguillon. From the moment they laid eyes on each other, they were inseparable. Not a day went by that Derek was not asking and pleading to see his Lily. If he were told not now or later, there would be endless crying and tantrums. The attachment they had for each other was like nothing Derek's mom had ever seen before. The memories of driving Derek around in her little truck, squealing and laughing as she did all her tricks, will be forever etched in our minds. They would bring out every toy possible in the house after visits. Victoria would finish cleaning and would find Lily's shoes, purse, books, or headbands. Derek would take them from her and say he would keep them safe until he saw her. I think she left them on purpose just to go back and see Derek, Victoria said. They called each other my babe, my honey, my Lily, and now he calls her my angel. They were destined for each other, and what they had was true love. She will forever be a piece of him. Iliana had just completed her second day of school at Duranes preschool before she was tragically taken away from us. Lily enjoyed singing, dancing, talking with everyone, and made friends everywhere she went. Thanks for listening, and drive safe, New Mexico.
I'm Raven Rollins, and this is my Southern True Crime podcast where I discuss cases from my former hometown. Ada, Oklahoma paints itself as an average community, but its history of murder and corruption runs deeper than any story has ever told. You'll hear plenty of special guests, including authors and experts in their fields, who visit with me on each episode, as well as other cases in the southern states. With notorious and unknown cases alike, every victim sees the light on my show. This is Sirens, a true crime podcast.